One thing to understand about sex is that sex is a game of inches, angles, sometimes it's a game of centimeters. It's inches, angles, and attitude, right? It's energy, right? It's kind of like boxing. Boxing is a game of inches. Oftentimes, people focus so much on the position that they don't think about tweaking the position for the particular dick size and shape that they have, and how the body of the woman is set up. One thing that I emphasize that guys should do is, first things first, study a map of the different spots within a woman's vagina. Yes, you can learn to make sure you know what a clit is, but I feel like most of my subscribers should have no issue already with knowing how to find a woman's clit. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you don't know, you can hit me up or something like that. Amari Ball BWB on Facebook. Listen, I'm not somebody who's real hard to reach, right? I'm not somebody who's real hard to reach. Chop it up, have a conversation, add me to some groups or something like that. Cool. But when I'm talking about this concept of it's a game of inches, a lot of people get so caught up on, what position gives a woman an orgasm? I know I used to do that shit all the time. Like when I was younger, maybe 16 years old or some shit like that, looking online. But you got to understand, you got to get the most out of a position. So the first thing you need to know is what size and what shape dick you have. Study a diagram of the spots within a woman's vagina. The G spot, the A spot, the cervix, the O spot, right? Understand these things. You also need to understand what types of strokes, right? You got to have a stroke game, right? You need to understand rhythm. You need to understand pacing. Pacing is about her as much as it's about you. It's about both, right? So you got to pace yourself to not be coming too fast or to be taking way too long. You need to make sure that, also another thing is making sure that you're experiencing a certain level of pleasure as well, because there's a balance. For some guys, they're going to be hard no matter what. And for some dudes, they just get so in their head that they're going to lose their orgasm no matter what. But I know, like for me personally, I got to find that balance between how much pleasure I'm allowing myself to receive versus being in the zone and being focused. Because if you're in a position where, and not a physical position, but a mental space, to where you cut off your pleasure completely just so you can last, that woman is not getting enough ego gratification. She's not feeling like she's giving you enough pleasure so that she is getting into the moment as well, because she feels like you're two in your head, so she's two in her head. You get what I'm saying? So there's a balance to find with these things. It's a balance to find with it. Now, what I'll say is that it can often work like this. You got to understand the different angles that you can hit, the different things that you can do, but it's not all about the particular position. But there are certain positions for each dick size and shape that will work for you. Like if you angled up, or if you got to curve this up, then hitting it from the front is going to work. Sometimes you could just alter that missionary and put put a pillow on her back, put a couple of pillows under her butt, right? To make it a little bit easier to hit the G spot. There's something I call Brody's technique, right? Which is for guys who may be shaped down, or you may be a little bit on the longer side. If you're not super, super thick, then something that can work is it may be difficult for you to hit the G spot as consistently as you want to. So if a woman is in a feminine, submissive enough energy to where she's comfortable with this, like her body isn't overly sensitive to pain, then what you can do is you can reach behind her pubic bone and you can press down on her G spot while, let's say, a woman is off the side of a bed or off the side of a couch. Reach behind her pelvis, push her G spot down, then angle your dick up at her G spot, and then just kind of push the G spot between your dick and your fingers. And that's something that can create G spot orgasms. But you got to understand attitude, mindset, energy. She has to be aroused enough, right? If a woman isn't aroused enough, then the spots within her vagina will not be activated. And a woman can spend her whole life thinking she can't have orgasms from penetration because she's never been aroused enough or in a submissive enough space of energy in her headspace to be able to have those experiences. And when a woman's in that space, a woman may think, well, some women say, just listen to the woman, listen to what she says she likes. No, some of these women don't know their bodies, right? A lot of women get triggered when a man speaks about knowing a woman's body better than she does. I've rarely, if ever, had sex with a woman who knew her body better than I did. If I'm giving you orgasms that you've never had, or if you didn't even know that this shit existed or that it could happen, yeah, I know your body better than you do. It's cool. You know, you ain't got to get mad about it. There's some women who know a man's body better than a man does. It's not something to get in your ego about. But when we're looking at these particular things, what we got to understand is this. It's a game of inches, angles, and attitudes. You got to know what spots you're hitting. So once you look up a diagram of the vagina, one thing that I'll say is this. Ask a woman, when you get in there, ask her where she's feeling it, and then ask her to reposition her body until you're hitting directly on her spot. Then you have to find a position that's comfortable enough for you to have the stamina to work on it consistently. You have to find the rhythm and the positioning to hit that spot on a consistent enough basis to give her orgasms. I'll say this, unless a woman's had one before, oftentimes it's going to take a certain level of aggression and a certain consistency of hitting it on a consistent basis at a pretty fast pace, like for a woman who's never had one, because it's going to take more friction and more stimulation for a woman who hasn't activated that spot yet. But you ask her to angle herself, you angle yourself till you're hitting right on the spot. Cool. You know what dick you got, so you can hit the different spots. Cool. Make sure that she's fully aroused. And that's more so of an energy thing than just being able to, you know, sometimes we look at foreplay from the wrong mindset. And some of us as guys, we say, well, I'm just going to eat the pussy till she has an orgasm and then she's going to be ready. Some women, after they have an orgasm from clitoral stimulation, they feel like they already got what they wanted out of it. So they just waiting for you to be done fucking them. Some women, you have to get her into her submissive ego when it comes to getting penetrated. A lot of women are in their dominant ego when it comes to penetration, and they're more focused on the pleasure that you're receiving than the pleasure that they're receiving. So you have to play little mind games with the way you deal with the woman to where she's desiring for you to be inside of her. And not just from a place of wanting to give you pleasure, but from wanting to receive pleasure. And that's really a lot of the game right there. But you find the right angle. Sometimes it's just a little minor thing. You could have been hitting it back from the back from years, the same woman. But then you just make a minor change to the angle that you're hitting it at, and then now you perfectly aligning yourself with her spots. Another thing that I'll say is if you have any crooks, any curves, any slants to your dick, then angle your dick in the opposite direction of that. It's like if you curve to the left, then lay her on her right side and then angle yourself to where you have the strongest angle that's going in the opposite direction of her G spot or her A spot that's on the front wall. Also got to know the O spot. And it's just real minor things, just little minor changes. Like a lot of the times guys think that to get their sex game better, that means they need to hit it harder. They need to hit it faster. You know what I mean? A lot of the times the growth you have in your sex game is more so about your attitude, your energy, knowing how to manipulate and influence the woman's energy in that moment in time, understanding sexual transmutation and take whatever emotion she's experiencing and turning it into sexual energy, understanding the art of creating anticipation, pleasure denial, edging, you know what I mean? Different things along those lines. There's a lot of different things that come with it that once you understand that, sex becomes a lot easier. Man, you could give a woman multiple orgasms by just teaching her how to have multiple orgasms from riding you. She may not know how, but you can put her on. And once you put her on, then you find the right angle, to position your hips. Like when a woman's riding you, you could position your hips in a certain way that's just different than you ever did. So you just get a little bit deeper in there. And once that woman starts rocking, instead of jumping up and down, then sometimes that woman will start rocking and she'll catch her wave, she'll catch her groove, her rhythm, and then she can have cervical orgasms. If you got the length for it. The G-spot orgasms, it's going to be a lot easier if you have a particularly thick dick, a particularly curved dick, you go against that angle, or if you have a very enlarged head and then you're kind of just hitting it at the opening, right? So understand that. Now, don't listen to, and I know this is something where women will be mad at me about this, right? Where they say, oh, all the nerve endings of the vagina are in the first 2 inches. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Maybe it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's where all the spots are. Most of a woman's spots that get her close are deep. And that's something that people leave out that narrative because they don't want to make people feel insecure about size and stuff like that. Man, don't worry about that. You got to figure out what works for you and what you have. As a man, you got to figure that out. But once you get to a certain place, it's not always about hitting it harder, hitting it stronger, hitting it faster. It's just finding a better rhythm, a better pace that works for you and how much stamina you have. Finding a position that you're comfortable in so that you can do it consistently. Finding the spots, making sure that she can identify the spots herself. And then you can paint a picture for her for what an orgasm will feel like from that spot in a very subtle way, right? Indirect communication. And you can just paint that picture for her to where she feels like it's possible. See, a lot of it when it comes to orgasms is just feeling like it's possible. They're painting the picture with confidence and not putting too much pressure on her, but just making it something that she desires to do, but making sure that she feels the stimulation in those spots to where she's like, you know what, that's possible. You know, I would like to do that. And then once you pass that line, then a lot of times you just got to cross that hump. And in my experience, when it comes to vaginal orgasm penetration, typically it might be a little work to get that first one, but after she gets that first one, you might do it a couple more times. She might just have one. But if you stay on that goal and you stay with your eye on the prize of improving, then you'll go from one to eventually she'll have two in a session, to eventually when she really hits past that third one, she's having four. Then when she gets to the point where she's having like three in a session, maybe four, then eventually it hits the point of having multiples back to back. And once she starts having multiples back to back, she kind of gets in the subspace. She hits a wave. Once she hits that wave, then she's in a place where she can have an unlimited amount of orgasms back to back. It may be 8, 10, 12, 13, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50. It's just about how long you're willing to do it. How long can you keep her in that space of desire and lust and intensity, right? Do you know how to take little minor breaks in between there, not stopping altogether, but just slowing it down for a little while, right? And then you take it to a new place, man. You can give women orgasms from multiple spots, you know, during sex. There's blended orgasms. There's a whole bunch of experiences you can have. And I'll say one importance to this is this, especially if it's a woman that you like. You know, a woman can love you from a perspective of the things that you do to fill her cup, right? You want to be in a position where a woman lusts you and loves you. You don't want a woman to have just one. If she only lusts you, that's cool if you don't want shit else. But if that's a possible woman who goes like who you could see more than that with, then she needs to not just love you, she needs to lust you as well. You have to touch on both sides of it. That you can't integrate if you don't have both love and lust, right? And it starts off with like and desire, right? You know, if she can lust you and just like you a little bit, that's a good foundation. You can start from there. But, you know, from what her past experience is, you want to be able to overstimulate her a little bit above where she was at before, because oftentimes a new place of pleasure creates a new place of authority. That's if you're a dom, that's how you want to do shit. It's not about controlling a woman's entire life, but you at least want her to be in a position where she feels like dick is a gift. It's something that you're giving her. It's a reward. And there's a lot of benefits that can come with that. It's like if a woman feels like she's giving you pussy, what you got to understand is that if she feels like she's giving you pussy, that means she's in a dominant position, right? So that means that if she spends any money on you, if she does anything, if she might be doing it out of the kindness of her heart, but at the end of the day, she's going to feel like, damn, I'm giving this nigga pussy and I'm doing this. But if dick is a gift, then she's going to understand that, you know, dick ain't free. Some people say it's some toxic shit. That's cool. That don't really bother me too much. But I'm just putting niggas on game, right? Like sex is a game of inches, angles, and energy, attitudes, just like boxing. Just like in boxing, you can hit as hard as you want. But if you ain't hitting them in the right spot at the right time, if you only hit them when they're pulling their head away, if you don't know how to create that right angle, if you smother your punches, or if they're right at the end of your punches to where you're not even touching them, you're not going to knock them out. And it's not always about throwing the hardest punch. It's often the punch they don't see coming that hurts them. So when you understand these particular subjects when it comes to sexuality, you know how to foster an environment where a woman can be in her submissive energy and her feminine energy, then the orgasms will flow. But these are a lot of things that I didn't know. For a long time, I ain't know them. I didn't get in a whole bunch of better shape. I ain't make a whole lot of more money. I didn't get a bigger dick. And I didn't necessarily learn a whole lot more about a woman's anatomy. I knew about most of the spots in a woman's vagina back in high school, man. A lot of it is energy, understanding the spots, not just saying, okay, well, if I'm in this position, I'll hit the spot. No, ask her. Ask her where she's feeling the pleasure at. Ask her the angle until it hits the spot. She may not have multiple spots in her mind that she's thinking of. She just has one, maybe two that she's experienced feeling some pleasure from, and she probably don't put that much thought into it. And she's like, okay, cool. Well, if it feels good, it feels good. And that's not enough, man. You got to take her above that. You got to take her beyond that. Be a little bit more intentional with your sexuality. And you can do it for her. She don't necessarily have to do too much of it herself, but at least she can do is angle herself to where it's hitting that spot. Make her conscious of it. And just have conversations about, okay, where did you feel it this time? Right? If something's hurting a little bit, ask her, is it good hurt or bad hurt? You can ask that right in the middle of sex, like, oh, that hurts. Like, good hurt or bad hurt? Because sometimes you got to understand that when a woman gets to a certain space, she gets in the subspace, pain mixes with pleasure. I'm not saying ignore her pain. What I'm saying is that if it's a good hurt, you keep going. If it's a bad hurt, you stop. Or you change the angle. But sometimes the positions that will give a woman the most pleasure will be a little bit uncomfortable first if they aren't fully tapped into or she's not used to it. Right? It's like, I ain't gonna get too much into break it in today. That's a different conversation altogether. But once you learn these different things, man, you become a dick magician, right? You can dickmatize women. And I say use that responsibly. Don't do that to everybody, man. It's not for everybody. It's for the women that you're dealing with that you like. You know what I mean? For a woman who, like, maybe you know what? Some niggas gonna do what they gonna do regardless. I'm just sharing the information. And don't lead with the A-game dick. Take your time and get to know that woman's body. And she may have other spots that you can use in conjunction with it. But you do want to create a strong enough foundation to where if the only thing that you're giving her is dick, she can still have orgasms. Then the other things that you're doing are icing on the cake. Like the clitoral orgasms, maybe nipple orgasms. Maybe she can have orgasms from the feet. You know, another thing you can do is you can develop fetishes for a woman. You can give a woman validation for something she never had validation before. You can develop a fetish within her mind to where a woman, you can paint a picture in a woman's mind to where she starts having orgasms in places she never thought she could before. When a woman gets in her feminine submissive energy, she can have orgasm from sucking dick. She never thought she could orgasm. You rip that Band-Aid, and there's a way of going about doing it. Mouth training, shit like that, throat training. A woman can have orgasm from sucking dick. She can deep throat. You know, sometimes you got to understand that the human mind is very open to suggestion. It's very open to influence. But you have to be in a dominant position to do that. And she has to feel to herself that you understand her body better than she does. And once you're in that position with a woman, you can train her body to have orgasms from a variety of things just from painting a picture. Like you just have a conversation like, you know, a woman can have an orgasm from this. And then you get her super aroused, because when a woman gets super aroused, her whole body becomes an erogenous zone, right? When she's kind of uncomfortable, and not uncomfortable as far as you're just intense, but just uncomfortable, it's like kind of frigid, kind of cold, kind of closed off, kind of guarded. Then sometimes in that position, she's only going to be able to have orgasm from clitoral stimulation. So you got to take her beyond that. The more aroused the woman is, like the more aroused she is, the more spots that she's going to be able to fill our erogenous zones. So you can even get a woman to have orgasms from giving her a massage, a foot rub, like whatever you have a fetish for. You know, build up her sexual ego, her dominant or her submissive sexual ego in those areas. And that's something that's going to greatly enhance and create sustainability within your sex life. But all this shit is a game of inches, angles, and attitudes. This is Coach Brody. I'm out.